Welcome to an RPG in a Box basics video tutorial. In this video, we're going to take a look at creating stairs in RPG in a Box. I'm going to talk through the two ways of making stairs, depending on which game mode you're using, whether you're using grid move or free movement mode. The method for making stairs is different depending on which one you're using, okay? The first thing that's really important to note is that stairs need to be a tile rather than a model. So what I'm going to do is I've started to create a tile model called stairs, which I'm going to finish setting up just so you can see me setting it up. So I'm just going to select the step here and I'm just going to copy paste, move the voxels across and up, and I'm just going to keep doing this until I've got a simple set of stairs. So while I'm doing this, I'll just quickly finish explaining. So as I say, stairs need to ideally be tiles, especially for grid mode. And in fact, to be honest, NPCs, whether you're using grid mode or free movement mode, NPCs still use grid mode anyway, no matter which mode you're in. And if you want NPCs to be able to go up and down stairs, they're going to need to be tiles. So for that reason, I would say just make your stairs as tiles rather than objects. And the reason they need to be tiles is for the simple fact that only tiles hold navigational data. And by navigational data, I mean these lines that you can see on the map, these green lines. They're what dictate where NPCs and player can and cannot go. And also the route that they will take when they go that way. Okay, as you'll see when we get to the staircase. So I've just made my set of stairs. I'm going to save the model. And these are a tile called stairs. Okay, now if I was to just save these for example's sake as an object as well, so save as stairs underscore object. If I now go to the map editor, the stairs should obviously be passable. So go to the model properties and make sure passable is on. So because obviously we want to be able to move up and down the stairs. So we'll do the same for the object. Stairs should be passable on. Save. So let's go to the map editor and see what happens if we place the stairs object. Pay attention to these green lines. You'll see that as I place this stairs object down, nothing happens, okay? And you can actually see that the green line just stays where it is. Now in game, what that will mean is that you will essentially not go up the stairs, you'll walk through them. You'll stay at the same level you're at, and you'll just walk through the stairs. So here we are in game. So if I try to go up the stairs, I just go through them because the green line is actually going through and under the stairs, and that's the route I'm going to take. In grid mode, you follow the lines, therefore you go through the stairs. Okay, and if we go back to the map editor and we delete the nav lines, so press F3 to go to nav edit mode, hold right click and delete that line, and try and take the line up the stairs, it's not going to, because the stairs are an object, therefore they don't support these lines. So what we want to do instead is delete the stairs and delete the line. So let's also get rid of that line there. Let's also for now just get rid of this line as well. Let's just create a gap of navigation around this doorway here. And then we're going to switch back to the tile, select our stairs tile and place. And that needs to be on level 1 so it doesn't replace the floor. So now when we click and drag navigation over the stairs, you'll see they go up the stairs because now they're conforming to the tile model. So the green line is now taking the player up the stairs. Okay. Let's also go to the asset library and just quickly grab a stone floor of some kind. Let's say that one. Because I know the stairs are 16 high, because if you go to the model for them, the model is 16 high and they go to the top. So therefore I know that this set of stairs is 16 high. I can go to my dungeon floor and go up 16 and place that at the very top, like so. Okay. And then what we can do is we can go back to the navigation drawing mode and extend this line to the top. So now we can actually go up the stairs onto that tile at the top there. And then if you wanted to go down the stairs, if you wanted to sort of fall off the front, for example, at the moment you wouldn't. You would just stop here and you wouldn't be able to go any further. But if you wanted to be able to fall off the the front, for example, you can switch to edit mode, select this tile, hold shift, select this tile, right click, do navigation and walk and interact, and it will connect them. And as you can see, you can fall off the front like so. If we also had this line here that's going through, then that means we can also walk underneath. Okay, so if we now save and play test this, we preview with the navigation, you can see that now because the line is going up the stairs, I can now go up the stairs instead of going through them. And also because there's a line now that goes this way and off, I will drop off the step. Now the only problem is that because the line it's both ways, right? So that might not be what you want to do, but I just put it there anyway just to show you that you can do. What you could do if you wanted to is you could put a trigger event on this tile that says, you know, change this line to pending or something, or delete the line when you reach this so you can't go back up. Okay. But also because there's a line going underneath, we can also walk underneath the model, underneath the tile. Okay, so we can walk under it, but we can also walk, in this case, over it, even though it's a bit silly. But more importantly, the stairs are working, okay? We can go up and down the stairs. However, what happens if we change the movement mode? If we go to the map properties and we change this from grid to free movement, and we save and play, we're no longer tied as the player to the grid. So we as the player are no longer using those lines. Now, because we're not using the lines, it means that instead what the player uses is the collision models. Now, before we show this, let me just quickly go back to the editor. And if I go to settings, quick play, collision debugging, we'll turn this on for a moment so you can see the collision. So in free movement, instead of using the lines, let's just turn those on so you can see them. So when you're making a free movement game, the player does not use these green lines anymore. What it uses are the blue boxes that you can see around the player and around the walls and around the stairs. This is what's called the collision model. This is what tells these player models and 3D models what they can and can't get stuck on, go through, that sort of thing. So in this case, the player is colliding with these walls because of the blue collision box that's around the wall and the player. Okay? And likewise, the goblin. The player is colliding with the box of the goblin. The goblin is colliding with the box of the wall. And notice how every step of the staircase has a collision block. Now what that means is the player is now getting stuck. So even though the player should be able to go up the stairs, because he's not following the green line anymore, and instead using the collision of free movement, the player is now getting stuck. How do we fix this? So what we need to do with free movement is we need to approach this from a completely different technique. So what you need to do is, let's just delete the stairs first of all, and we'll come back to stairs. We're going to open them in the voxel editor. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, in the properties for the stairs model, you're going to want to find the collision override option. I'm going to drop this down. And you want to choose custom for free movement. And you want to add a collision shape, which is a prism. Now in this case, it's facing the wrong way. We need this section to be facing towards the stairs. So we're going to rotate this on the Z axis 90 degrees so that the wider section is facing in the same direction as the stairs. And then you're going to scroll down to where the left to right option is. And if we just look at the stairs from side on, we want to tilt the collision triangle so that the tip of the triangle is leaning to the far side. Oops, had it then. 1.2. No, 1 probably. Is leaning to the far side of the model. Okay. What this will do now is it will effectively create a ramp. So the collision for the stairs, instead of each step being its own block, the collision is now a smooth ramp going up. So the player will essentially glide up the steps. Okay. So if we now save this model and return to the map and place our stairs down again. We don't need to worry about navigation unless you've got any NPCs, so I may as well actually add them back, seeing as we may have some. Let's make sure that stairs are height above the floor. Add the navigation back, and let's also grab the dungeon floor, go up a grid and click, and add that to there. Okay, so now if we go into game, if you look at the collision now, you can see a difference between how the stairs looked before we did the ramp to what they look like now. If you remember beforehand, every step had sort of this mesh, this blue mesh on each and every single step. And that was what was stopping the player from being able to naturally just go up the stairs. But now you can actually see our ramp collision. Here you can see the shape of it here, which means we now just glide up that ramp. Okay? And then as we reach the tile above, we can walk on the tile above. You'll notice there's a slight issue when we get to the very top of the stairs that we are also catching slightly on this thin bit here. So again, you might want to adjust either the height of this tile or the collision of this tile as well. So I want to show you that quickly. But let's just see what happens if we drop off of here. We might be able to walk underneath. Yep, you can also walk underneath because it's higher than the player. It's worth mentioning that if the tile was any lower, obviously the collision box of the player might collide with the collision of the tile, so you might not be able to walk under it in free movement like we could in grid. Let's go back to the map editor for a moment. So one thing we could do to fix the issue with this tile is we could lower it by 1, so it's actually in line directly with the stairs. So now we should just glide up the whole thing effortlessly, like so, no problems at all. But now there might be a slight problem when we try to walk underneath, because the height of the tile now, the collision box of the player, just here, as you can see, is colliding with this section of the tile here. Whereas in grid mode, you would see that we would walk under the tile anyway. If I put the map back to grid mode and save it and play it. So now we're back in grid mode, even though the collision, you can see the collision has come back for the stairs. That's because we're in grid mode now. So it's using the normal collision. Notice how I can't drop down because I forgot to draw the line back. So what I'll do is I'll just slightly cheat. I'll hover my mouse cursor over this tile, bring down the cursor, and I'll just type put entity or put player self. I'll just teleport me down there. And let's just bring the nav on for a moment so you can see the lines. So even though in free movement I couldn't walk underneath this tile because of the collision, you see that I can clip through in grid move. And that's because the grid move ignores collision and it uses these lines to dictate where you can and can't go. So because there are green lines going in this direction, the models essentially ignore the collision, so you just walk straight through it, right? But when you're using free movement and you're not using these lines, the collision becomes really important. So in this case, we would collide because, as you can see, our head is actually is either at the same height or it's slightly higher than the tile. So we'd collide with it, okay? So you need to take things like that into consideration with free movement, that height and collision and all of that is very important. So it's definitely a good thing to have collision enabled when you're making free movement maps and games, because you'll want to be referring to these meshes here to see, how high is the player's mesh compared to the mesh of the ceiling, how wide is their mesh compared to the mesh of a wall or a door or something like that. So it's always good to have these things on show for free movement, because that kind of stuff comes really important. Whereas grid mode, as long as there's a line going through something, it doesn't matter how wide or tall it is, you'll go through it regardless. Anyway, so that's stairs for both grid move and free movement mode. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask on the Discord, but that should be pretty self-explanatory about how to make stairs for both grid and free movement. So with that said, that'll wrap this video up. Stay tuned for the next tutorial.